Hey, it's Pascal, and today is the 17th of December 2013. I just wanted to make an update because last time I did, I posted something online. It was a bit negative, and I was sort of tossing up whether or not it was worth keeping the video about my family up, but I just thought it was like kind of emotional and a bit all over the place and maybe not that constructive. But yeah, still kind of unsure what to do with it. But yeah, I just wanted to make an update about some things that have happened in the last, I guess, couple of weeks. On the family front, everything's pretty much the same. We've had pretty little contact, no contact actually, which has been really difficult, but I feel like at the moment, with us not having contact, it's a little bit removed, so I'm coping with it a little bit more than when we were speaking every day, and those conversations were really helpful and really kind of intense. Yeah, so I think all the stuff with my family has kind of made me more positive about the decision I am making, because it really made me question if I was willing to sacrifice things in my life and people in my life who were not going to agree with it. Like if my gender expression is that important to me. And it kind of confused me for a while. I was like, am I gonna end up all by myself with no friends, no family? And then, but be authentic? Or am I going to do what other people want and be fucking miserable? Which is really difficult, because, like, you want to say that you're going to be authentic, but who wants to be miserable and alone? So, I don't know, I guess I'm trying harder to explain to people what genderqueer means, because I think that's where the crux of the issue in this has been, in particular with my family, and even to some degree with some friends, has been people being like, oh, genderqueer is this place where you're working out what your gender is, and so like you're going to either decide to remain female or transition to be male. But I don't think that that's the case. At least with me, it's not. I feel that saying that I am genderqueer is saying that the genderqueerness is my gender. I'm not female, but I'm also not male. I feel like an amalgamation of the two, and that's like how I'm going to stay. Genderqueer for me isn't a place in which I'm working out which gender to be. It's working out which parts of both gender expressions work for me, and how I can live in a space that is outside of the binary, because I think that's quite difficult. I mean, if it's difficult to describe to people if you're saying I'm genderqueer, not I'm a boy. I feel like if I had said to my parents, I think I'm male, I'm going to become a man medically, that they might have understood it a little bit more, and there would have been this like less questioning of like my sanity and my mental health and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm trying to work out at the moment a more clear and succinct way to explain to people what genderqueer means and what that means for me. Yeah, something else I've been thinking a lot about lately is this idea of like the authentic self and what it means to have authenticity. One of the points that my mother brought up with me, that she said that me being trans or genderqueer didn't seem authentic to her, which she didn't elaborate on because this isn't in an email, but it's something that I really sat down and questioned, because I was like, okay, what about me telling you my gender is different or has changed or is changing or is in flux? How is that inauthentic? Like, I'm just saying how I feel. It's a feeling that I'm having. How is that inauthentic? And I think this is maybe where the idea of the trans narrative can be problematic if you don't fit into it. I think I tick enough boxes, like in terms of like I'm confident enough to go to the gender psych and I will tick enough boxes for them, I'm pretty sure, to get approved for surgery. But in terms of like the limited knowledge that my parents would have of transgender issues, I don't fit that typical narrative. Like I haven't always come out and said, hey, I'm a dude. I think that if I had sort of maybe expressing that when I was really young, they would have been like, oh, well, you know, we've seen this coming, and they would have seen the signs. But for them, they're like, well, you're not, you know. I've always been gender non-conforming in the sense that I've never been like a hyper feminine. But I've also never been hyper masculine, so I think they're really struggling with like where did this come from, because they only know this idea of the trans narrative, you know, whatever that is. And I think that's why they have this idea, you know, the lack of authenticity about it. But I feel like telling people that I'm genderqueer and that I'd like to be called Pascal now and use gender-neutral pronouns, even though I'm asking to be called a different name and use different pronouns, I essentially haven't changed at all in the past year that I've been identifying as genderqueer than beforehand. Like, female Caitlin and genderqueer, genderless Pascal is exactly the same person on every fundamental level. My ideologies haven't changed, my politics haven't changed, nothing has changed, with the exception of being preferred to be called a different name and to use different pronouns. And I feel like this idea of not authentic, it's like, well, what's changed? What's changed except for a name change? I think I've always been genderqueer. I've always had the same gender. I'm just now labeling it and expressing it and trying to make other people understand it. I didn't wake up one morning, I wasn't female one day and then wake up the next morning and be like, oh, I'm genderqueer, that makes sense. I've always been like that. I'm just discovering how to describe that to people, and I'm putting a language to it, which I think is a really important thing for me to get across to people, that I'm essentially exactly the same. Yeah, so that's kind of been where my head's at the moment, trying to describe to people what genderqueer is, what it is for me, and the idea that I don't have to decide to become male or female. I can be in an amalgamation of the two, and that's legitimate. Yeah, so that's sort of been where my head's at. Yeah, I probably won't make an update until after the gender psych and whether or not I get approval, which, fingers crossed. So yeah, till then I hope everyone has a good Christmas and New Year and all that stuff. Yeah, cool. Peace.